In the past, when I would cover mass shootings, I would always just have a video talking about the general, sequence of events, what's going on, how it happened, unfolded, how many people were killed. But now we're at a point where I don't even have to give them their own separate videos because they're happening right on top of each other. So 2 days ago, there was a guy who was on a boat and he opened fire on an outdoor bar. This is over in North Carolina, Southport. He ended up killing 3 people and injuring 5 others. What's interesting about this Nigel Edge person is that he served in the Marines for about 5 years back in 2003, 2009. A little bit under 5 years, or a little close to 6 years, but roughly 5 years. And he had suffered from PTSD. And he was someone who obtained multiple awards for his service, right? The Purple Heart, Combat Ribbon. And really what's so interesting about that, because we're going to get into the other shooter as well. I had a person who asked me to do a video on why I would never serve in the military. And when people choose, to enlist, they go through this experience where if they're not killed over some conflict that was preventable, didn't need to happen, they survive and are in many cases screwed up for the rest of their lives because of what they experienced during their tenure. And the United States is a country that, applauds and praises the people who serve in the military on a surface level, but in terms of actually making it to where they receive any true benefits for their sacrifices, if they happen to survive, you're not going to see that. And a lot of times, I'll talk about, Republicans not wanting to do anything about gun control, and I'll get into that later. But when there are clear instances of mental health problems for people who I think have legitimate reason and merits regarding, them being screwed up, it will be crickets. The Republicans will say something about, we need to address mental health issues. Again, usually as a way to dodge do anything about the damn guns. But they won't propose or introduce anything to actually see that take place. Now, the one from yesterday was in Michigan. This guy rammed his car into a Mormon church, got out of the car, opened fire, killed 2 people, injured about 8 others. They found 2 more corpses after going through the church's remains, but we don't know for sure if they were killed by him. I assume they were, probably just indirectly, caught in the debris. Now, what's interesting about this shooter, Thomas Sandford, 40-year-old Iraq war veteran, and just like the other guy, right, former military man, clearly has some kind of mental issues going on. There's almost I don't even want to describe it in this way, but there's something so ironic about people serving in the military, because both of these men were veterans of Iraq, and the idea behind serving is that you're supposed to be protecting your fellow man and woman, or fellow American, whatever. But then you end up surviving that conflict, clearly developing some mental issues stemming from being involved in that war, and then launching offensives on your neighbors, the same people that you were sworn to protect a little over 20 years ago. You really do either die a hero or live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And again, it's just these are very clear cases of people who at one point were normal. They had to have been, right, to live to adult age before doing something crazy like this. And you hear the stories from their neighbors, which are corroborating of them being normal men. And they get these issues from the conflict that they were involved in. And in spite of there being very clear evidence that this has something to do with mental health, the Republicans who would distract from any kind of gun control, even when you would agree with them that, hey, we do need to do something about mental health, they're going to do nothing. And, I was thinking about this, because it's Sandy Hook school kids die. The Uvalde, Texas shooting, school kids die. Columbine, Virginia Tech, older, students die, but still. You have these churchgoers getting murdered. And you just ask yourself, who has to die before something changes? Like, when you think about it, the only person whose firearm murder showed any semblance of mattering was Kirk. And that's only because that's a famous person, influencer of policy. But the rest of these people that get killed, we talk about them for a day or two, and then that's it. We just go back to normal until the next pile of bodies stacks up across the country. I don't know, it's like there's two overarching themes with these specific mass shootings. One is the frequency of them, right, to have them take place back to back. And then coincidentally, they're both by veterans. So there's also like a conversation about how easy it is for people to get firearms, regardless of how mentally well they are. And a lot of people have been taking this, and you've probably seen the clip if you've been paying attention to the whole fallout from Kirk's assassination. They took this clip of him where he talked about how there was like a certain amount of worth it to gun deaths, and he compared it to how we have 50,000 car deaths, but still think cars are worth having. But what is missing from that commentary from him 2 years ago is that people need licenses to drive vehicles. Now, obviously, someone can just get into a car and start driving, but if they get pulled over or are found to not have a license, they'll face repercussions. It's not like you can just decide I'm going to go and pick up a car, especially when cars are fairly expensive. We're talking even a used one's like $3,000 or $4,000. It's much more difficult to just be a person unequipped to deal with operating a car and just be on the road than it is to go and pick up a relatively cheap gun from Walmart or one of these other places and then go and shoot up a bunch of innocent people because you're mad. It just really makes you wonder, when is this going to stop? Like in every past instance where I've talked about shootings, it's always a video, right? Oh, this shooting occurred here and it was at this time and this. Now you can just lump them together because they're just on top of each other. I just want to leave with this idea. It's amazing that with all the technological advancements, right? We're hearing about AIs that can, now basically do the jobs of regular people. No one ever says, how primitive of a society do we have to be to just have a guy go and get a gun and just fire upon a bunch of strangers. And then, we talk about it for like a day, a few days, a week, and then move on. And then another one happens. And then we talk about that for a day, a few days, a week, and then we move on, and another one happens. I mean, like, what kind of insanity do we have to be under where that's normal? Like, if you can just expect every week to hear, oh, this person shot up this place, this person went and shot up this is as American as it gets. You can just call us the USG, the United States of Guns. And I wouldn't even have an issue with us having, 390 million guns if we could actually regulate the damn things, or at the very least, provide adequate healthcare, mental health services to, which I guess would fall under as well, the people who are, using these things and having those kinds of thoughts. But that would actually require politicians to be concerned about something besides their jobs, their donations, and their own wealth. So we'll just have more people get murdered for no reason other than the apathy of the people who have the power to actually do something about it.